Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the podcasts of the Wakefield brothers. Their 16-year mission to watch every production, to seek out life lessons and new inspirations, to boldly watch like most fans have watched before. Welcome back to Temporal Directive, the Star Trek fan podcast, rewatching the entire Star Trek franchise in chronological order. I'm Gary.
And I'm Tom.
And this week, we're watching Star Trek Enterprise's The Andorian Incident. I just want to take a moment before we start to acknowledge the passing of Patty Yasutake, who played Nurse Ogawa in Star Trek The Next Generation, Generations, and First Contact. I don't know about you, but her performance in the episode Lower Decks was excellent. Like, I really thought she brought a lot of character to a character that we didn't get to see very often. And yeah, it's sad. She passed away. She was 70 years old after a long fight with cancer. Yeah. So, yeah, some sad news last week.
Yeah, very, very much so. She was a fantastic actress. In Star Trek, she was awesome. Like, Nurse Ogawa was just amazing.
This week, we're watching The Andorian Incident, written by Fred Decker, story by the creators, Rick Berman and Brendan Braga, and Fred Decker. And this week's episode is directed by Roxanne Dawson, who, of course, was B'Elanna Torres in Voyager. It aired October 31st, 2001, so it was a Halloween night.
Is the episode anything to do with Halloween at all?
Not that I remember.
No?
No, not that I remember. And before we get into the synopsis, we'll introduce our guest host for today. Please welcome Geoff Wakefield.
Hi all. I'm bringing balance to the force, if that gives you a hint of which side I'm on, but still.
Great, yeah.
If you can't guess from the surname, this is the man responsible for us.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah, more of a Star Wars fan. There's always been tension in the house between Star Trek and Star Wars, so yeah. I'm glad we can bring that fight to everyone listening.
Absolutely.
And yet I do like Star Trek as well, but yeah.
Well, it was you that introduced us to both, to be honest.
Well, that's correct.
Yeah.
We just had better taste.
Yeah.
All those weeknights waiting for Next Gen to come on.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I said in the introduction episode that the only reason I started watching Star Trek was because you had a VHS of a TV episode that you'd recorded off the TV. It was like part one of the Menagerie or something from the original series.
It's a wonder I still haven't got it.
You probably do. But yes, anyway, thank you for coming in. Thanks for being a part of our podcast for this week.
No, that's cool. Because when I was young, Doctor Who was the thing, really, I guess. And at that same era as Star Trek, black and white. Yeah, very exciting. But Star Trek was just another show. You know, it wasn't mega.
Was Star Trek in black and white when you first watched it?
Yeah.
Because there must have been a TV in Australia problem, because Star Trek was always in colour in the US.
Was it?
Yeah.
Yeah. No, we just didn't have it. Maybe it was transmitted in colour. I don't know how that works.
Yeah.
But Doctor Who, Star Trek, all that era was black and white as far as I can remember.
Yeah, okay. That was probably a TV, I'd say.
Yeah, definitely.
Most probably, even though we were probably one of the first to have colour in the area.
Yeah, right.
But
nice.
Because I remember neighbours coming around to look at our 26-inch Rank Arena colour TV that no one had ever seen.
So fancy.
Yeah. But, yeah, so Star Trek wasn't a real thing. And I guess it's just because it became a cult thing eventually, then, you know, you could look back and say, well, yeah, I guess it was pretty good. But you could say that about Doctor Who too. Lots of other things, you know, it's from lots of things from that era that was really cool. science fiction wise.
Yeah.
So do you remember watching like your first Star Trek episode, like when you were young? Like, or do you have a memory of something like when you were young, of Star Trek?
Not really.
An early one.
Not really. To be quite honest, no.
No?
Like, I remember Star Trek being on, but not actually watching it. It was more Lost in Space and Doctor Who. It's probably more of the things that I can remember.
Yeah.
But, you know.
My favourite Martian.
And my favourite Martian.
Even I like watching that now.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
But when you think about Star Trek back then, it was like a theatre show anyway. I mean, you know, the pilot episode, what was it, Cage?
Well, the Cage was the original pilot that didn't air until much later.
Yeah, but you know, you compare that to say the early Doctor Who or the early Lost in Space. They were all very similar.
Okay.
And it all seemed to be done on a stage almost.
Of course it was.
Yeah, well, I mean, but you know, you could really tell that.
Theatre style.
Yeah,
Okay.
theatre style. Yeah, but that was where it started. And I guess I didn't take a lot of notice. Star Wars came out, and that was more interesting to me.
Boo.
Yeah.
You know, and I've always said to you guys, you know, because I mean, I really don't prefer one against the other, but I do when you guys are around, of course, 'cause then I hang a bit of crap on you guys with your Star Trek and my Star Wars. But, you know, I hang a bit of crap on you guys and Star Trek because of the shiny surfaces and brand new ships that, you know, haven't got a mark on them. And you know, I just look at Star... And I think that's part of my character because, you know, I'll always use the crappy thing to do the job. So Star Wars sort of...
Maybe Star Trek just looked after their shit.
Yeah, you know, took care of their stuff. They actually used screen protectors and stuff to make sure everything was working.
Yeah, well...
Repaired things after they were broken.
You know, they knew they could live in a utopia. They didn't have to worry about stuff,
Sure,
you know.
because that's realistic.
It is in a future without money and people and stuff, you know.
Replicate a new one.
Yeah, put a new one on there. You don't need to use the
Bloody
old
Star
So
Wars
this is the
fans.
sort of rubbish we go on with every time we're together, isn't it? Really.
Yes.
But really, I just like sci-fi stuff, and always have. And it's been great, and I'm just interested in sci-fi stuff. Space always have been. It's great. But I think the next gen was the thing that really brought us back to Star Trek because it became a family thing. Then it became
It was certainly
and then
my obsession.
Well, we all liked it, you know, and even my wife, who is not a real sci-fi fan, you wouldn't say, but she liked. She waited.
Understatement of the year.
She even waited weekly for that weekly episode of Next Gen. She enjoyed it as well. I mean, it was just something that was generally appealing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sort of covered all bases really. Next Gen was just sort of really amazing, as we said in the first episode. It was something that we could all sit around and watch, which was quite a good thing.
And so, you know, that brought us back to Star Trek, or me back to Star Trek in a big way, I guess, and introduced you guys even heavier or even more, I guess, into Star Trek, as now you are obsessed with.
Obsessed?
I don't know. Does the tattoo on my arm, does that give that away?
Does a 16-year commitment to a podcast, does that mean we're obsessed? I feel judged.
Yeah.
I wonder if Star Trek comes up in the first 5 minutes of any conversation here.
Well,
Anyway.
That's a
yeah,
good,
okay, no, that's true.
that's a good question.
But anyway, I'm burning up, you know, lots of time here.
The IMDb synopsis. Are you ready? Archer, Trip, and T'Pol are captured by the Andorians at a Vulcan monastery on P'Jem. They believe that the monastery is being used to spy on Andoria. Does anyone remember this episode at all?
I sort of have flashes in my head of some things, but I don't know whether it's relevant or not. It's
Okay.
yeah. So not really.
Not really?
No. There's very few. I haven't watched Enterprise enough for it to have sunk in.
Fair.
I feel like I've been saying that a lot. No, I don't know it.
It's true, you have. Dad, what about you? Did you watch Enterprise when it was on?
Not a lot, no. And I've got the excuse of memory loss because I'm old. So, but no, not really.
Was this a series that you were into?
No,
Okay, this should be good.
Yeah.
not really. I mean, once I look at the episode, I probably have seen it
Probably.
because I've watched just about everything. But I just can't really put my finger on it. But
Yep.
anyway, we'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, I remember this being a pretty good episode. It's also the first episode that has Jeffrey Combs in it, and he plays Shran, who becomes a recurring character. So that's pretty cool. You'll probably remember him better as Wei Yun from Deep Space Nine.
Yeah, I knew who he was when you said his name.
Okay, good.
In Star
Thank
Trek
God.
world, I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
Well, not always, but with him,
Usually you do.
definitely. Yeah.
Let's check it out.
All right. Thanks, everyone. We'll be back in a minute. And we're back from watching the Andorian Incident. First thoughts, folks, what do you think?
Do you want my opinion?
Yeah.
Wow, you'd think in the future we'd have different attitudes, wouldn't you, than what they've got?
Are you talking about the racism towards the Vulcans, or
What, those people, as in
Yeah.
refer to Vulcans as those people, or you people, or whatever. Are we really going to have that sort of attitude in the future? It's a bit sad.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty evident within Enterprise. I've noticed that they're quite like that, aren't they? Especially
Yeah.
against Vulcans.
What did you think, Tom?
I actually quite liked this episode.
It was good, right?
Yeah, it was well paced. It was well acted. It was a good story. I think it was a really good introduction to Andorians. I actually really enjoyed this.
Cool. Well, while we're positive, we should probably stop.
That's it, everybody. We're done.
It was a good story.
Yeah.
All right, let's go through the episode. Let's get into it. You ready?
Right. Yep. No worries.
So we open up on the monastery on Pajem. The Vulcans are lighting candles and being all quiet and prayerful and whatever. And we get 4 Andorian soldiers breaking through the door holding guns and their little antenna like tweaking. Yeah.
Which I remember seeing the first time and going, they're moving.
Yeah, they didn't twitch in the original series.
No, just solid bits of putty on their foreheads.
Yeah. Yeah. So they break in and there's no words spoken in that little opening teaser, but we cut to credits,
Which are horrible.
which we skip every time. Then we cut to Trip and Archer in his ready room, and Trip is complaining about visiting all the places the Vulcans have already been. T'Pol enters, and Archer says that he wants to visit a monastery on this planet not far out of the way, called Pajem. T'Pol says that the Pajem monastery is a sanctuary for Kolinar, which is the purging of Vulcan emotions.
It's good that they use the word colon
Oh my
purging.
God.
Anyway,
Yep, typical father, dad humour. Yeah.
So they have a bit of a discussion about that.
colon.
Archer really wants to visit, and T'Pol's basically saying, "Oh, I'm not sure that would be welcome. Like it's a place of worship and sanctuary, whatever." Archer pretty much says, "We're going. Like,
Yeah.
make it happen. Make it so." Oh, wrong show.
Nice try.
I tried. Could you imagine if the captains were Australian?
Oh, God. Oh.
Make it so.
It'd be more like, get onto it, mate. Go on, make it happen.
Captain's lord.
Crikey, mate, was that a Klingon? Fuck. Gonna stick me thumb up his cloaca, come on. That's not a Gorn, that's a gator.
Okay. So we cut to the mess hall. T'Pol is eating with Dr. Phlox, and they're talking about the upcoming visit to Pajem. And T'Pol talks about a bit of anxiety about being seen with a human crew in a Vulcan place. And Dr. Phlox says that feels similar, that like sometimes he feels a bit out of place But they talk about the Vulcan saying the infinite diversity in infinite combinations, which is a running theme in Star Trek. They've talked about that for a very long time.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's one of the concepts in Star Trek that really appeals to me is this infinite diversity in infinite combinations. And the way he sort of talked about that being part of the mission of what Starfleet is about. So to seek new life and new civilizations is partly to seek that infinite diversity. And I thought that was a really interesting way of linking the Starfleet motto or the Starfleet mission with the Vulcan ideology. I thought that was really clever.
Yeah, it was very clever. It was very well worded, and it was a good conversation that they were having about that kind of thing. And I think these days, especially, Star Trek's gone a lot better at doing that kind of thing without having to actually put it into a straightforward conversation.
But do you think that crew reflects that ideology?
Infinite diversity.
No, but I think that's why it's said in this series so much, is that they have these conversations and that because they're such a fresh crew, they're sort of new to this experience of it. So they need to be confronted with it. So these conversations are going to be quite prevalent.
Is that what you were talking about, or were you talking about the fact that the crew is not very diverse? It's a bunch of white white men.
Right. Like diversity. I mean, you would have thought that would be sorted out before they actually started out to explore the galaxy. That was just part of the future. Are we going to be non-diversive before we even get there?
Yeah.
I mean, you'd think that would be a very accepted type philosophy before they even started out. But anyway.
Yeah, I think it is, but television in the early 2000s was not up to date with what Starfleet was doing, so they can't have a very diverse cast at that time period on TV.
Yeah.
But I think the ideals of Starfleet and the Federation doesn't exist yet.
No.
But the ideals of Starfleet, I think, do reflect that. But yeah, TV at the time was just not up to scratch, and they do a better job of that now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sure.
Yeah, Discovery and Strange New Worlds and all the current shows are much more diverse.
Yeah, absolutely.
So we cut to the shuttle bay. Archer, Trip, and T'Pol are heading into the shuttle, and T'Pol is briefing them on what to expect. She's basically saying, don't speak to anyone, don't touch anything, don't look at anything.
Yeah, that's it. Just basically pretend you're not even there.
Yeah. Just don't engage.
Yeah.
Just don't. Yeah, be a fly on the wall, if that.
Yeah.
They get down. They arrive. They notice some scratching on the door. They ring the bell. Nobody answers. They walk on in anyway because they're humans and arrogant.
Yep.
And they see some Vulcan guy standing there, and no one says anything because T'Pol was very clear: don't speak unless spoken to. And the Vulcan guy just stands there staring at them. So T'Pol walks over, and they have a bit of a whisper, and then she comes back and says, "Oh, they're in the middle of their communal colinar or something, and can't talk for all of winter."
Sorry.
It's like, okay, well,
Off you pop.
so go away. But then she asked for the Jakar stone for their distinguished guests.
Yeah.
And so he goes off to get that, and then she starts looking around, and she notices there's a statue sort of out of place. There's a smashed up bowl.
Skew.
Oddly perched, I think is the
that
word
was the
that
word.
they used.
It's an oddly perched statue.
An oddly perched statue. And she said that the guy seemed a bit agitated, which seems an odd description for a Vulcan, but sure. So then when he comes back with the stone, he offers it to Archer. They do the bow, and he does all the right things, but then he goes on to this big, rambly talk. Oh, I think the oldest monastery I ever saw was in Nepal or some shit.
Making up crap.
Making up shit.
Yeah. Just to get around and have a look a bit.
Yep. And the Vulcan keeps making excuses for the mess and all those sorts of things. But then he sees in a reflection that there's an Andorian. He didn't know they were called Andorians, but he sees an Andorian hiding behind a wall thing. And he sort of communicates that to Trip, and they attack him to try to get him. And then the rest of the Andorians come out with their guns and take them hostage with the rest of the Vulcan people.
I actually really liked that communication with him and Trip. like that, the body movement, like the arm movements and stuff, like I don't know what you call it. Is it just sign language? Is that all you call it? For the little sign language with Trip to say that there's someone behind the panel was pretty. I liked that. That was pretty good. And the panel reminded me. I don't know whether it reminded you guys, but of Spock's room on the Enterprise. You know how he's got the divider in his room in the original series, and he's got those little round bubbles and the little. It looked like kind of like that divider that the Andorian was hiding behind. Do you remember? I know you have bad visual memory.
I have no visual memory, and no, I do not. It didn't remind. I don't remember. No.
Okay. All right.
So then Shran, the Andorian leader, Jeffrey Combs, is interrogating Archer, and they're arguing. Shran says that he thinks that Archer is colluding with the Vulcans, bringing surveillance equipment to the planet. They argue back and forth for a bit, and then he gets dumped back in with the other hostages. T'Pol starts talking about the fact that they're Andorians, and the other Vulcans are giving some more context about who the Andorians are, that they're from neighboring systems. There's been conflict for many years between the two species, and that the Andorians believe that they're hiding some long-range surveillance equipment on Pajem, and have been back and forth a couple of times to try to find it. They don't find it, they go away.
Yeah.
But because Archer's there this time, they think that it's
it's heightened them. It's made them more suspicious.
Exactly.
Yeah. They think they're all shale.
Oh my God, do not bring Shale back. We cut to the bridge. Reed sees that there's another ship on the planet about 1 kilometer from the shuttle landing pad. And he sort of talks about how they should be checking in with the people on the surface. And Hoshi says, you can't expect them to check in every 10 minutes. And he says, maybe that should be standard procedure.
Yeah.
So they're still working out what is and isn't proper procedure for away missions.
Yeah, it's good, isn't it? I think that was very good. Yeah. Hinting at different things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Shran and Archer are back in the interrogation room. Shran is beating the shit out of him. And then the communicator starts buzzing, and Shran answers it and says, "Is this Enterprise?" Okay, he might not have said it quite like that, but he talks to Reed up on the ship and says, "Your captain is a prisoner of the Andorian whatever." I didn't actually catch what he said.
No.
Andorian Empire? No. Andorian... I don't know. Whatever. Sorry.
Nah.
If you come down here, we will kill the hostages. And then Shran destroys all the communicators.
Yeah, just gets a rock and smashes away.
Smash. Like a Hulk.
He's a
blue Hulk.
Set makers were very happy.
I'm sure.
Yeah, prop makers. Woo.
So we cut back to the hostages. The Vulcan elder man. Whoa. The Vulcan elder dude asked T'Pol how long she's been on the ship. And she says, however long. And
9 months or something.
Yeah, and he says, the smell must be intolerable. So this running gag of humans smelling bad that's been going on pretty much since the first episode is still present, which is funny. Archer gets dumped back in the room. And this is where we get that amazing line from Trip saying, you'd think they could find what they're looking for with those antennae of theirs.
Yeah.
What the fuck? What a stupid line.
It's dumb, isn't it?
So dumb.
Like they were television sets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're talking about what they can do. Archer says Reed is probably going to head down with a bunch of guns soon if we don't get word to him, and that's just going to make things worse. So then the Vulcans say, we've got an old transmitter hidden in the catacombs. And they're like, catacombs? Transmitter? I thought you didn't have technology.
It's good that the catacomb entrance was right in that room too, because that would be inconvenient in such a big complex to have it somewhere else.
It was
That's
quite
right.
convenient. Yeah.
Be right there on the wall. It was good.
Not being sarcastic or anything.
No.
No.
It's just a show.
Yeah, I know. We'll get to that because the next couple of things that happened are all related to. I mean, the episode was good. I really enjoyed the episode, but there's things that they do in Enterprise that are just illogical, especially when you're dealing with Vulcans.
Wouldn't happen in Star Wars.
Oh yes, it would. Oh yes, it would.
So Trip and one of the Vulcans heads into the catacombs to find this transmitter, and they find a few desiccated Vulcan corpses on the way. And there's a little special doorway down in the catacombs, and Trip says, "What's down there?" And they said it's the reliquary. Yeah, the reliquary full of sacred items, and no one's allowed down there. No one's been in there for generations or some shit.
Yeah.
He says,
Which is worthwhile having, isn't it, for Vulcan culture to have something that's down in a cave somewhere where no Vulcans can go and see it, even though it's all your history.
"Yeah,
But anyway,
Yeah, it's very logical,
It
isn't
just
it?
doesn't, like, wouldn't you make a museum or something?
you would think
and
so."
it's not maintained, and it just makes absolutely no sense
But
whatsoever.
anyway, but that's how it is.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So they find the old transmitter and take it back to the hostage room, and Trip's working on it to try to get it to work.
Why didn't they all just go straight down into the catacombs when they were locked in?
Well, I thought at the start there was an exit out of there, see, so they could get back to the surface, but it
But there
came
wasn't.
to view that there wasn't an actual exit. So
Yeah, fair enough.
So getting into the catacombs would have got them, well, nowhere.
No,
Yeah.
true.
basically, yeah.
Less beaten.
Less beaten. Well,
Yeah.
maybe if they just disappeared, then maybe the Andorians would be like, "Oh my god, where are they?" And maybe they would have left earlier.
Yeah.
Who knows?
It didn't happen.
Didn't happen.
No.
While Trip's trying to work on the transmitter, Archer and T'Pol have a conversation about what kind of tactical options there might be, about beaming people into different areas and whatever else. But really, it's just another excuse for T'Pol to have another stab at the smell of humans,
Pretty much.
which is fine. T'Pol says that she's against an armed assault. The tensions between Andoria and Vulcan are high, and that the Vulcans don't believe in responding to violence with violence. And Archer says, well, maybe a bit of violence would be helpful.
I needed more guns.
More
you got, the
guns.
safer you are.
Yeah. So Trip gets the transmitter working and
'Cause
finally
he's-
gets through to
because-
read.
Because he's never met a transmitter he couldn't fix.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
Yep. Trip says to Reed that the captain says to sit tight, don't make it any worse by heading down. So just, we're working on it, leave it. So they go back to the hostage room and they're trying to figure a way out of the situation. And they sort of made a map out of little coins or rocks or something to sort of a map of the catacombs. And Trip says that he saw some light coming through one of the walls in a certain pattern. And Archer tweaks that's the face in the entrance room where the Andorians are kind of set up. So they've got this big face carved into the wall. So they want to check and make sure that is the spot. So Archer asks to speak to Shran, says he's got some information, and he hides a little statue thing in his sleeve. And he gets taken into that room and beat up a few times. He starts talking about some stupid Earth things, about like balls of string and fights and whatever. But manages to get that little statue through one of the eyes or something, or the mouth. While Trip's in the catacombs. So Trip's in the catacombs. He finds a little statue that confirms that it's the same place. And so they make a plan to beam some security people into the hostage room, which they do. And just as the Andorians are figuring out that, like, sensing that there's an energy distortion or whatever, they break in and they've got these security guys into the catacombs and the door shut before they can see anything.
Very, very, very efficient.
Very efficient. This is some good security.
That was done well.
I didn't mention there, but before they beamed down, there was a scene of nervousness about using the transporter.
Yeah.
The security guy was like, "Oh, I've heard some stories about this." So the security people have been beamed down safely, and they've gone through into the catacombs. They've found the back of the face and they've put explosive devices on the back of the face on the wall there.
Yeah, they find 3 more life forms.
So we got 3 more life forms here on the sensor.
Yeah, that come up as human.
Just as they
Right.
say that.
Bang.
Yeah.
Then there's a shooty, which you probably like because you're a Star Wars fan, and that's what Star Wars is all about, shooty.
Yeah.
Well, not all about it.
No, it's not
There's
all
not
about
much
that.
else.
No. There's swords.
Apart from the quality
Oh, yeah, light
stories
swords.
and quality storylines.
Good one.
Good one.
Great.
Hang on, wait. That deserves... Quality story.
My supporters.
Yeah. They go to keep fighting, and the Vulcan dude grabs a gun to go and join the fight. And then the Vulcan elder's like, hey, we don't do this. And he says, we must protect what is ours.
Violence is not our way.
Well,
And then the
apparently
guy
it is.
nods his head as if to say that's okay.
Yeah, that's right. What?
After he just said not to.
Don't do it. Okay, do it.
Yeah. Go ahead.
They go down into the catacombs, into the reliquary, and there's more shooting. And then the Vulcan guy is terrible at using a gun and shoots some big tapestry off its rail, and it exposes a big door that looks like Professor X is about to roll
As soon
out.
as you see it, right? So I even said it. I was like, oh, Cerebro.
I was like, is Patrick Stewart going to make a cameo? So yeah, it looks like a big X-Men door, rolls open. Archer says, let's stop shooting. You should have a look at this. And so they do. They stop shooting, and the Andorians come over, and they find a massive underground surveillance operation. Like, huge operation. The Vulcan dude, for a second, is like, I'm going to shoot you all because you've seen it.
Yeah, puts the phaser to his back of his neck.
Doesn't take much for that to
Nah.
get that threat to be eliminated. But yes, the Andorians were right all along. The Vulcans had violated the treaty between Andoria and Vulcan and were doing some long-range surveillance from Pajem.
And isn't Archer pissed?
Archer is wild.
Yeah.
He makes T'Pol scan and get all the data he can.
Yep, imagery.
All the imagery they can. And then gives it to Shran and says, the Vulcans violated your treaty. Your people ought to know about that. So, yeah, lets them go. And Shran says, we're in your debt. And then the shuttle takes off from the planet and the credits start rolling.
Yeah.
The end.
Yep. That's it.
So, now we've talked through it. What do y'all think?
I actually really loved it. I actually really enjoyed this episode quite a lot. I think everyone was just great in this episode. I don't know whether it's Jeffrey Combs or something that brings everyone up or something. I don't know, because he's just fantastic in pretty much everything he's done in Star Trek. But the episode as a whole was really good. Very, very strong.
Yeah. It's rare for you to enjoy an Enterprise episode, so that's good.
Yeah. I'm just happy that we're on the up and up with Enterprise.
Yay. And what did you think?
Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I enjoyed it. That's as good as I'll say.
Yeah.
Okay.
It was okay.
Okay, good.
I think Archer's response at the end was fantastic too. Like, I really liked the fact that he was really pissed, and that he had stood up so much for Vulcans, like standing by the Vulcans and doing what he can to help them and all that kind of stuff when they were absolutely bullshitting to him the whole time.
Yeah.
And then to just be like, fucking Vulcans, you know, like it almost confirmed everything that he'd been saying about Vulcans. You know, they're manipulative, they're lying, and they're, you know, hard to deal with and yada yada. And then, you know, for them to be actually doing that, it was like a slap in the face to him, really. It was like, I think his reaction was totally justified. And to have the 3 founding species of the Federation at such sort of odd ends in the one episode was just sort of it's just really good to watch.
Yeah.
You know? And that grounding, it's really good. I just enjoyed it a lot.
Yep.
Clever.
Yeah.
And what about the life lesson for this episode?
Trust nobody.
Never trust a Vulcan.
Yeah, that's it.
Don't trust Earthlings with your relics.
Well, yeah, well, that's true.
And it's to, they're being open, aren't they? To expose wrongdoings, if you like, and be open about what's going on,
Yeah.
I guess. Not hide anything away.
Yeah.
Honesty.
Yeah. And standing up for truth and justice in the
exactly.
American way. I mean,
That's Superman.
wrong franchise. But I agree. I think the lesson here is that you should always act with integrity.
Yeah.
And
But yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, I like that. That's accurate because it's completely evident in this. Because as soon as he realised that the Vulcans were doing the wrong thing, he was straight onto it. He was like, "Yep, no, they're doing the wrong thing." So
yeah.
he stopped.
All right. So IMDb rating out of 10. Just as a reminder, our examples of 1 episodes are Voyager's Threshold and Next Gen's Code of Honor. Examples of 10 episodes are Next Gen's Tapestry and DS9's Far Beyond the Stars. With that in mind, where would you rate this episode?
What did I give the first? Was that a 7?
That was a 7.
I'm going to give this like an 8 or a 9.
Oh.
I actually really love this episode quite a lot.
Okay.
Yeah.
I would say an 8. I
An
don't
8?
think that would jump to 9.
Well, I actually quite enjoyed it, so I would push closer to a 9, but I'm happy to go to an 8.
Okay.
Yeah, because there's still some logical issues with the episode. So
Well,
yeah, so I'm happy with an 8.
Okay,
Yeah.
Great. I think we'll settle with an 8.
Excellent. All right,
Excellent.
no worries.
All
What's
right,
your
any-
hang on? What's your 10, Dad? Do you have a 10 episode?
Yeah, the Inner Light.
Oh, yeah.
I love that
Yeah.
episode.
That is a good episode.
Great. Well, that was easy. I
Yeah.
thought you might have to think about that a little longer.
Do you have a 1 episode, an episode that you just remember being really terrible?
What are those tribble fluffy things?
Holy crap!
You don't like the
guys go mad
tribbles?
over them. Look, they'd make good dusters.
He
Maybe
does
you
have
could
a
use them.
point.
Maybe,
What the fuck?
maybe that's why the ships are so sparkling clean, because of those.
They've got tribbles running around.
Tribbles running around cleaning everything.
If you had one tribble, you'd have a million.
You don't like the tribble episode?
Not really, no.
The trouble with tribbles, really?
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
You did ask.
Oh, we did.
I don't think we will again.
Probably not.
Excellent. All right. Well, thank you for joining us for an episode of Temporal Directive, and you're welcome back whenever you like.
Thanks,
Pleasure.
Dad.
It was a pleasure.
Everyone out there, if you can find us on Facebook at Temporal Directive Podcast or on Instagram, just Temporal Directive, or you can get in touch via email at wakefield_productions@outlook.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts on this episode or anything Trek related. We would love to hear from you. So please reach out, and we'll be back next week with Breaking the Ice. We'll see you then. Live long and prosper.
Peace and long life.